You're just in time for NTV Tonight. Our top focus this evening.
Tonight, the indignity of poverty. Rongai man earns a 3-month suspended jail sentence for trying to smuggle daughter out of hospital over hospital bill.
Also tonight, an unworthy gift.
Hii nyumba ilikuwa ya mtu. Ilikuwa inakaa mtu. Ndio sasa tukaambiwa ati hiyo ndio nyumba inajengewa mtoto wangu.
Nakuru woman rejects house gifted to her by President Kenyatta due to poor workmanship.
Plus, a case of incompetence or not. Sharp divisions over Supreme Court's majority decision on Wajir governorship case as lawyers vow to return to court.
And Ekuru Court's push for a change of the law and his upcoming date with the IEBC.
NTV Tonight with Mark Masai and Olive Burrows.
We're pleased to have you with us. David Agondoa is our sign language interpreter. Welcome to the broadcast. 22-year-old Benson Murage risked his freedom to smuggle his 1-month-old daughter from the hospital. He was simply unable to raise the 56,000 shillings demanded from him as the hospital bill for his child's treatment.
Murage says he did it for his family and had no other option. On Tuesday, that is earlier today, Senior Resident Magistrate Caroline Nzibe handed Murage a 3-month suspended sentence after he pleaded guilty to the charge attempting to defraud Kenyatta National Hospital the sum of his daughter's medical bill.
He will be on state watch and expected not to commit any other offense during the 3-month period. NTV's Zainab Ismail with more.
Boniface Murage's daring act is the illustration of a father's love. He walked out of the Milimani Law Courts on Tuesday with one thing on his mind: to see his daughter, whom he tried to smuggle out of hospital to avoid paying a hospital bill he simply could not afford. In this one-roomed house on the outskirts of Rongai in Kajiado County, the family of 3 are happy to be united. The smile on Murage's face as he holds his 1-month-old baby, Vivian Wangeshi. Evidence that his daring act was all for the love for his family.
Kajaribu kubonga na majamaa. Mbona majamaa kaniambia ile kitu mzuri nitafute kitambo, niwekea stamp ya chief, jaribu kuchangisha nione kama itapatikana. Kiamua kuchangisha kama hii nilikuwa nimechangisha karibu siku 3.
Alafu ulipata pesa ngapi?
Yani karibu 2,000.
But on February 16th, Murage was intercepted by security guards at the hospital when he refused to allow them to inspect a bag he was carrying that apparently had his baby inside.
Tulichukua hiyo bag. Kaniambia niweke mtoto ndani. Sikuwa na otherwise. Ilibidi tu hiyo pesa kwa kweli angepata.
Sikuwa na waga kwa ajili nilikuwa naambia Mwenyezi Mungu anisaidie juu anajua sina uwezo.
The blue bag with images of teddy bears was, however, too suspicious to smuggle out of the hospital.
Ilikuwa imetobolewa shimo kado. Kuna kashimo imetobolewa mahali alikuwa ameweka kichwa. Alafu sikuwa nimemfunika na kitu, niko nimewekelea dish ya plastic.
Lakini nilishikwa na stress. Kauliza Mungu, sasa hii ni shida gani tena? Ameshikwa, aende na mimi niko huko. Nani atasaidia mwingine? Na niko na mtoto.
Murage has, however, been freed on a 3-month suspended sentence, which means he will be put on state watch and expected not to commit any other offense. In the event he does, he will be put on custodial sentence. On Monday, Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko cleared the bill. The county press office also said the governor has offered Murage a job.
Mimi nakanga bila makosa sipokuwa ni ile nipata. Ile nipata nikaenda tu kuelea mtoi wangu mimi kwenda naenda job. Nikiwa sina nakuja tuna shida hapa nakaa.
For now, Agnes and Boniface are hopeful for a better future with a little bundle of joy as they decide to put the past behind them. Zainab Ismail, NTV.
Mark, I'm going to put you in his shoes. Would you consider doing what he did?
I'd do it. I mean, for Nashivai, I would definitely do it for the love of a child. it's unexplainable. So Murage, I know many people are saying, "Where Nulem say." So from a story where, and I'm sure they still are accepting gifts and support, because it doesn't end here with the bill that they have. He's explained what he does in Rongai, and sometimes he doesn't have a job. So they would be accepting more gifts and support, and we can channel you to them if you are willing to support. But to another story with a bit of a contrast. The woman who has rejected a house gifted to her by President Uhuru Kenyatta says she has been shortchanged of her rightful gift of a house.
Damaris Wambui is Dennis Ngaruya's mother, the boy who shot to national fame after tickling the president during the 3rd anniversary of KDF Day held 5 years ago at the Lanette Barracks. Bridget Ngana visited the house in question and filed this report.
Until 16th February 2019, little was known of Damaris Wambui until her story of rejecting a house gifted to her by President Kenyatta in the Saturday Nation went viral on social media.
Tulikuwa State House. Sasa ilichukuliwa tukiwa State House.
Damaris is Dennis Ngaruya's mother, and her son earned an opportunity to dine with the president at State House after he caught the president's attention during the 2014 KDF celebrations.
Though there has been white blankets in your life, you never cease to build Kenya.
When their meeting with the president materialized during the 2015 Mashujaa Day celebrations, Damaris says the president assured her and her son that their prayer for a home, her son's education, and a job for her would be answered. Fast forward, and 4 years later, when Damaris learnt of the existence of a house she was expected to move into, she protested.
Na hii nyumba wakati tulikuja, tuliona hii na tukaambiwa na watu huku tukiuliza, hii nyumba ilikuwa ya mtu. Ilikuwa inakaa mtu, na mtu alikuwa ambaye ni kiwete. Ndio sasa tukaambiwa ati hiyo ndio nyumba inajengewa mtoto wangu.
Ningependa kumshukuru His Excellency because kama si yeye sasa ingekuwa hapa juu, yeye ndio ananilipianga school fees. Kila kitu yenye nahitaji huwa namwambia. I'm not being unthankful, but actually I'm requesting to His Excellency that aone kenye aliassign Mr. Wanjohi kufanya ndo isa sasa wamefanya, which is very disappointing.
When we visited the house, repair works were ongoing, signs that the government still intends to hand over the house to Damaris.
Hata mimi nilikuwa ninapewa nyumba, rais alifurahishwa na mtoto na akapea mtoto. Mimi nasimamia kama mama musasi juu yeye ni mtoto mdogo.
In a phone conversation with the State House spokesperson, we were informed that plans to settle this family into this home have always been existent, but Damaris has always proved difficult. The parcel of land on which the house stands is said to have cost more than 600,000 shillings, and it neighbors a house belonging to a State House official. Bridget Ngana, NTV, Nakuru.
Let us know your thoughts using the @NTV Kenya handle, or you can use @Burrows or reach Mark Masai on @MarkMasai. Now, the Teachers Service Commission has published the names of 29 teachers who it has deregistered in 2018 for what it has termed as indiscipline while on duty.
The 28 men and 1 woman will no longer be able to practice their craft unless reinstated by the Commission. Though the Commission statement did not reveal the actual charges they face, it is believed that sexual offences could be the biggest reason for this dismissal.
In a Gazette notice, the teachers employer quotes Section 31 of the TSC Act to notify the public of the removal from service of 29 teachers from teaching in different schools across the country. The 28 men and 1 woman were deregistered from service between May and November 2018. The Commission saying most were deregistered due to sexual offences. The men James Okoth, Redfriend Gekonge, David Okeo, Daniel Korir, Josh Maisiba, Cornelius Murkomen, Patrick Onyango, Jack Makoha, Sankip Chirchir, Ernest Ndege, Peter Odhiambo, David Bunei, Thomas Mulandi, Onesphorus Kiwia, Benjamin Okinyo, Patrick Sifuna, Charles Masiei, James Mboro, David Njao, Willie Kiptum, Edwin Kipto, Stephen Kamindo, Samuel Lugwiri, Julius Makoha, Zachary Moturi, Nemuel Ondisho, Humphrey Mugera, Patrick Kimani, and Alice Chepngeno appeared on the list of those deregistered. With this move, the affected persons will not be able to engage in the teaching service. In November 2018, the Ministry of Education raised concerns over the high number of girls who had to sit the exams from hospital wards hours after giving birth or prior to giving birth.
That's a bit complicated and worrying, I think, for us as parents and as leaders in our country, because these children should actually be in school.
According to the ministry, an estimated 200 girls gave birth in the course of the 2018 KCPE and KCSE exams. While parents were questioned over absconding the responsibilities, teachers were also put on the spot, as some of the cases were believed to have been done by teachers preying on their students. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
From deregistered teachers to a story that led to the deportation of diplomats. The ongoing diplomatic row between Kenya and Somalia has taken another twist. A Norwegian exploration firm that marketed Somalia's oil stock in London stated that it sourced the product entirely from Somalia's territory.
But Kenya still insists that Somalia illegally auctioned its oil blocks during an oil conference held in February in London. That it was the 7th of February. NTV's Seth Olale with the latest on the maritime dispute between the two neighboring countries.
Spectrum Geo, a Norwegian data consultancy firm that gathered Somalia's oil stock in the Indian Ocean, says it avoided the disputed regions contested by Kenya during its operations. The company is through its Executive Vice President for Africa, Mediterranean and Middle East, Graham Mahiu, further clarified that it did not market to investors the disputed blocks labeled L21, L23, L24 and L25 as claimed by Kenyan authorities. The statement further indicates that all of the seismic data was acquired wholly within the maritime territory of the federal government of Somalia, and no data were acquired within the area currently the subject of the maritime delimitation case with Kenya. The company says the 2D seismic data, which covered a total of 20,000 kilometers, depicted oil stocks in 15 blocks, covering water depths of between 30 meters to 4 kilometers. The maritime dispute between the two countries escalated after Kenya's Foreign Affairs Principal Secretary Macharia Kamau on Saturday stated that Somalia had auctioned oil blocks belonging to Kenya during an oil conference held on February 7th in London. The diplomatic row led to the recalling of Kenya and Somalia's ambassadors to their respective countries.
Kazi ya fitina na ile kesi mimi najua wataanguka kwa sababu haina msingi wowote.
However, former Defense and Foreign Relations National Assembly Committee Chairman Adan Kainan wants use of negotiations to resolve.
It's not in our interest. It is not in the interest of the Republic of Somalia, the people of Somalia, and therefore I want to urge His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta and His Excellency President Farmajo to immediately instruct their respective foreign ministers to sit down and sort out this in the shortest time possible so that this issue is resolved.
The strategic bilateral agreement signed by Kenya and Somalia's foreign affairs ministers last month in Mandera is at stake following the ongoing diplomatic row between the two countries. Seth Olale, NTV, Nairobi.
As one of their last acts in office, the National Lands Commission assured the Deputy President William Ruto-owned Western Hotel will continue to stand on land grabbed from the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. The Commission making the case for restitution as the hotel is not built on a road reserve or riparian land. Restitution, as the Commission explains it, means the KCAA will receive a payout matching the market value of their grabbed land. And it's a decision for which the Commission was taken to task as they appeared before the National Assembly's Land Committee this morning without their chairman, Muhammad Swazuri.
Everybody, when a commission came in, thought that the savior has come. But apparently, there's no flow of what issues you should solve, the mandate of the commission.
On the defensive, those are the ropes on which the National Land Commissioners found themselves when they appeared before Parliament's Land Committee on Tuesday as the clock ran out on their 6-year tenure. Time's up and time now for the Commission to justify its existence for the last 6 years.
People think that we only do compensation. Compensation is one of our mandates, which we must do under the law. But again, Madam, Honorable MP, people chase where the money is. It's not the commission chasing the money. Everybody in Kenya, where the money is, that's where people follow.
Are you confirming Kenyan speculation as far as the senior most man, the chair of the National Lands Commission, that you have been chasing after money? And that is the reason why, out of 110 historical injustices cases, you have thousands and thousands of land compensation, which you have done on the issue of a compulsory acquisition.
But that's not the only question that dogs the National Land Commission on its way out the door. The Commission going out of its way to defend its decision to leave Weston Hotel alone, despite its proprietor, Deputy President William Ruto, conceding that the land on which it stands was grabbed from the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority.
The valuation has been done. I think it must be on my debt today. I will release it. We are doing an open market value. Yes. Because we are making sure that the people of Kenya don't lose out. And like I said earlier, is that we must begin to interrogate other ways of resolving land disputes.
The Commission echoing the position that the chairman, Muhammad Swazuri, took yesterday on their performance, that they leave office with their heads held up high.
What I want to tell the doubters is that most of them have been talking from a position of ignorance. Most of them have not taken time to engage with the Commission. They've not even taken time to find out what we have done. They have not even taken time to find out what is the mandate of the Commission. Because if they had done that, they'd have been able to find that as a Commission, we've been able to implement our mandate as the Constitution required. We've been able to achieve all the constitutional mandates that had timelines and been able to deliver to the expectations of the Kenyans.
And as they take their final bow, estranged from the chairman, is it a case of good riddance and don't let the door hit you on your way out, or...
Umepigana ya kutosha, but I'm happy because there's no injury. So I'll tell you, this is the last day. We are happy for you for what you have done. For other things you have not done. Nobody is perfect 100%.
Earlier, Olive Burrows sat down with the exiting Vice Chair of the National Lands Commission, Abigail Mbagaya, to get a sense of what the last 6 years have meant for her personally. And she began by asking her if all 9 commissioners, Chairman Mohammed Swazuri included, have signed off on their exit report. Here's an excerpt of that interview.
All the commissioners have signed off on that report?
Oh, yes, they have.
Okay.
Yes,
including the chairman?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So it's one report.
He is the chair of the... We have one report.
All right.
Why would we have two? We have one report.
Okay.
The report of the commission.
Looking back,
yes,
as you were putting the report together, what would you say was your biggest accomplishment? Or which achievement do you hold perhaps most dear?
When you come on board and you find nothing, for us as a pioneer commission, we reported and there was nothing to report to. You report and you're given a seat to sit somewhere, and you begin to form this institution. You begin to look at what the law is telling you, and you begin to establish the institution. We have established the National Land Commission. It is there, it is live, it is working. It is the institution that is carrying the hope of land reform in this country right now.
When the new team comes into office, what would be your advice to them?
My advice to them will be, 1, work as a team. Work as a team. You need each other along the way. And why am I saying this is that, you know, when we were being sworn in, Justice Mutunga told us National Land Commission is the commission of all commissions, because everybody in Kenya is on land. So the interests in land are, they need God. And doesn't need to be, that is very true. And they need to be brave. They need to be very brave to state the correct position and the way it is. So they must be brave, because the cartels are there. You're going to revoke titles. The cartels are there. They'll run you out of town. They'll come and do all manner of things, you know.
Was there ever a point where you asked yourself, for heaven's sake, why did I take on this responsibility?
Not at all. I have not felt that. I didn't feel that way. I think sometimes you felt more of that, God, will I make it through this session? You know, because it comes in sessions and in periods. You know, like, God, will I make it? Sometimes when you made very tough decisions and you revoked some lands and you got death threats, you know. But somehow I said that, you know what, somebody had to do it. that person for such a time like this, God has seen it fit that it is us.
Knowing what you know now, what would you tell the Abigail of 6 years ago when she took up this job?
I would tell Abigail that positions come with responsibilities. Never be cheated. All those people you see there with the big jobs, the big cars, and the bodyguard, the driver, my dear sister, they have responsibilities. It's not a joyride.
I think we can all witness to that, bear witness to that. It's not a joyride. A lot to be written about their tenure as well. We take a break here on NTV Tonight. It's 18 minutes past the hour. We'll be back shortly. The lawyers now say that they intend to peg their case on the academic qualifications of the county chief. So what are the issues and what are some of the considerations that the majority ruling made in overturning the decisions of the lower courts that nullified the elections?
Silas Apollo takes a look at the judgments delivered by the judges and which have sharply divided the legal fraternity.
Barely a week after the Supreme Court delivered the ruling on the Wajir gubernatorial race, opinion is still divided on grounds on which the appeal was allowed. Critics of the court say the majority decision failed to consider the facts tabled before court. Lawyer Brian Onderi argues that the majority ruling lacked factual and intellectual honesty. His bone of contention is a failure by the court to determine the authenticity of Governor Mohamed Abdi's academic qualification and whether he was qualified to run for governor. He asks, why did the majority refuse to determine an issue which it held in the ruling permitted adduction of additional evidence to be the single issue for determination? Was the doctrine of judicial avoidance in play? If so, was it rightly invoked, or was it abdication of duty? Ondari argues that the totality of the trial and additional evidence show that the appellant had not even stepped into Uganda despite claiming to be a student at Kampala University. Note that the sole analysis of the evidence is that undertaken by the CJ in dissent in which Lenaola joins. Senior Counsellor Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi says, and I quote, Governor Mohamed Abdi of Wajir is in office illegally. We are going back to court on Wednesday to remove him. The Supreme Court just declared that his university degree was a pre-election dispute and the High Court had no jurisdiction on that issue. End of quote. So what were the grounds upon which the majority and the minority judges based their rulings? The majority decision states that while the issue of whether Governor Abdi held a degree or not was a matter of concern, such a determination was the sole responsibility of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. And as such, the first respondent, who is former Governor Ahmed Abdullahi, ought to have exhausted all the available mechanisms before seeking the audience of the courts. The majority decision also faults Abdullahi for failing to lodge his complaint before the elections and as such beats the logic on why such a matter should be one to be determined by an election court. This, however, is contrary to the minority opinion held by Chief Justice David Maraga and Justice Isaac Lenaola. Maraga says that all evidence tabled pointed to the fact that the governor's degree was questionable. This includes the fact that there was no evidence of him traveling to Uganda to attend classes at the Kampala University, his name missing on the list of graduates, and the list of students admitted to the university during the time he says he was enrolled. Justice Lenaola, on the other hand, disagreed with the majority decision, which argued that the question of the governor's academic qualification was a matter which ought to have been handled by the IEBC. He argues that since the matter had not been fully dealt with by the IEBC after the complainant, Wan Abdirahman Mohamed Abdillah, failed to follow up the matter, the burden was on the courts, a responsibility he says the lower courts determined. Silas Apollo, NTV.
Students of Tomboya University are seeking answers from their college's administration and management over the fate of the courses offered after it emerged that they were the hardest hit by the scandal of unapproved courses.
The college has been listed as offering a record 25 degree courses that have not been approved by the Commission of University Education. A report by the Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement Service says the college is amongst 26 universities teaching non-approved courses.
In light of the revelations, the Commission for University Education had scheduled a press conference to respond to the claims but called it off at the last minute, with promises of authoritatively addressing the concerns on Wednesday.
It is estimated that close to 10,000 students at the 26 universities could be affected by this situation.
And it should be taken lightly. This issue affecting my parent, affecting my brother, paying my fee, everybody's being affected.
We need this issue to be addressed. We can't be addressed by deans, the registrar. We need the VC of Masai University.
And as far as I'm concerned, and this is an information that is in the public domain, that we currently have only 14 programs that are on offer. These programs are Masai University programs that are approved and accredited by Commission for University Education.
I'll be formally engaging you. And since I have apologized, I would like you to understand that we are not ready yet as a commission to address these matters the way they are trending in the press right now.
ODM leader Raila Odinga has termed corruption as a major obstacle to the development of the country.
Odinga says those who give bribes are as guilty as those who receive bribes and should be dealt with accordingly.
Odinga said this after meeting a delegation of Kenyan Asian community members who paid him a courtesy call at his Capitol Hill office in Nairobi.
Corruption is one of the major issues in the Building Bridges initiative. Corruption is a cancer, but it takes two to tango. We often just look at the recipient of proceeds of bribe, but we do not look at the giver of the bribe, who is as guilty as the receiver. And we say that everybody has a responsibility to pinpoint and identify those who are responsible for this crime called corruption.
Here's something to look forward to. In the middle of a raging debate on whether or not to hold a referendum and tinker with the Constitution, ODM leader Raila Odinga appeared to agree with the Deputy President today, William Ruto that is, that cabinet ministers should also be members of Parliament.
The Daily Nation tomorrow examines this apparent confluence of ideas between the two and also reveals how the opposition stronghold of Nyanza has started to benefit from President Uhuru Kenyatta's directive to ministers on the prioritization of development projects.
Speaking of the referendum, the quest for this to change the Constitution appears to have moved a notch higher, with the Third Way Alliance announcing that it will be submitting a bill and more than 1 million signatures that it claims to have collected to the IBC this Thursday.
In the bill, the Third Way Alliance is proposing to scrap the 290 constituencies, strengthen devolution, and elevate wards as units of development.
NTV's political affairs reporter Kennedy Morethi sat down with the party leader Ekuru Aukot and looks at some of these proposals that also seek to make corruption an extremely expensive affair.
At the Third Way Alliance headquarters in Nairobi, party officials are in a rush to finalize on their presentation to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission on a proposal to change the constitution through a referendum. Since April last year, the alliance has been collecting signatures and preparing a bill on changes to the 2010 constitution.
We have hit at least the 1 million mark. I think the last check we were at 1.3 million endorsements.
The bill, among other issues, proposes reduction of MPs from the current 416 in both the Senate and the National Assembly to a maximum of 147. This, the bill says, will be achieved by having a county elect 2 representatives, that is, a male and female for all the 47 counties, bringing the total to 94, then have 6 special nominations to bring the number to 100 representatives in the National Assembly and 47 elected senators. There will be no nominations to the Senate. The bill also proposes a strengthened Senate that will veto, check and balance the powers of the National Assembly. It also proposes an increase in the monies allocated to the counties from the current 15% in the Constitution to at least 35%. In the proposals by the Third Way Alliance, emphasis is put on counties as units of development, where they are also seeking to use wards as units for accelerated development. Another proposal is that of a 1 7-year term for the president. The Aukot-led alliance is also proposing changes to Chapter 6 of the Constitution, which they say has been one of the most abused by politicians. The bill proposes stepping down from office of officials mentioned adversely in the Auditor General's report, set timelines for investigation and prosecution of corruption cases involving public officers, introduction of a life sentence for people found culpable of corruption. The bill proposes the abolition of the position of deputy governor, arguing that it has been redundant and holders have been drawing salaries without doing any work. Aukot says the push to expand the executive to accommodate election losers is ill-advised, arguing that it will set a wrong precedent. Once the bill is submitted to the IEBC and it is satisfied that it meets the requirements, it will be submitted to the county assemblies as prescribed in Article 257 of the Constitution. Kennedy Muredhi, NTV.
Time now for business news with Julian Amboko after this break.
There are three kinds of moms. The paranoid mom.
It's time to get down to business. Welcome. I am Julian Amboko. Ahead of the much-awaited issuance of Kenya's first green bond later this year, the need for increased awareness and availability of green financing as the country explores ways of supporting sustainable development is gaining momentum. Victor Kiprop attended a climate change and green growth workshop and now paints Kenya's baby steps in preparation for the transition into a green economy.
At a time when climate change is seen as a top global concern, investing in projects that have a favorable impact on the environment has been termed as the only key to sustainable development. This much-needed growth, however, can only be realized if entrepreneurs can unlock financing.
In developing a vibrant green capital market entails stimulating sustainable innovations such as reviewing business models to align products to green financing, to diversify the product range to include incentives such as preferential lending rates or reward schemes to environmentally conscious clients.
Under the Sustainable Development Goals and the African Union's Agenda 2063, African governments committed to promote, upscale and replicate the circular economy and green business development to enable the growth of sustainable entrepreneurship as a key driver of the continent's economic transformation agenda. Lack of awareness, especially in the grassroots area, has always been a major challenge.
People, when they hear something like climate change, you think as an institution or as an entrepreneur, you might not think it is very directly relevant to your day-to-day. You think it's a luxury for maybe some big multinationals, not realizing it is something that is relevant to every single person. So that awareness is very, very important. And also aligning it to business. Many people, when they hear about climate change, they think it's just something happening in the Arctic Ocean or some place like that.
Kenya requires about 2.4 trillion shillings to support green economic activities in areas such as afforestation, renewable energy and public transport. Victor Kiprop, NTV Business.
Elsewhere, the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining has started engaging 18 companies that process crude oil in the hope of getting the best price for refining Kenya's black gold, which is poised to become a significant foreign exchange earner in the country. Alex Mwangi with the details on that story.
The discovery of oil in Kenya 7 years ago may have led some to believe that the government will go down the path of constructing a new oil refinery. That thinking has, however, been overtaken by the reality on the ground of economies of scale.
We'll know unless you have something like 400,000 barrels per day, it just doesn't make any sense from a refining economics point of view. We've got 80,000 barrels a day. But at the end of the day, if you can import refined product cheaper than you can refine it yourself, that's what makes more sense.
In light of this, the government is rolling out a plan to determine where the crude oil will be refined.
Next week, we will meet with the companies that feel that they can run Kenyan crude. We will then sit down with them and find out what kind of price they're prepared to pay. And of course, whoever gives us the best value, that will be the company that we will ship the crude to.
The Kenya Petroleum Refineries Limited was shut down in 2013 and sold in 2017 for 1.25 billion shillings and is now a bitumen storage facility. The government says it will work with Total, Tullow Oil Kenya and Africa Oil to construct an 821-kilometer pipeline to efficiently evacuate crude oil to the port of Mombasa. According to Kamau, that project will be in private hands and as such is not a public-private partnership.
If you produce every day of the year, you should hit a number close to about $1.5 billion in terms of revenue, which is significant because that tends to be where the tourism sector is annually.
Alex Mwangi, NTV.
And that story is a reminder that we should be submitting comments on the draft Sovereign Wealth Fund bill which was issued by the Treasury last week. Moving on, the East African Community has signed a 3.5 billion shilling deal with the Federal Republic of Germany to strengthen the integration of member countries, particularly in the areas of health, regional economic integration and education. The grant includes a 1.4 billion shilling commitment for the continuation of the Joint Financial Cooperation Program under the Regional Network of Reference Laboratories of Communicable Diseases to support the EAC's efforts in fighting communicable diseases and strengthening the capacity to deal with pandemics. 1 billion shillings will be channeled towards supporting inter-regional trade through the value addition, better market access and improved customs process for harmonized standards. The agreement was signed by EAC's Secretary General and the German ambassador to the EAC in Arusha, Tanzania. Moving on to the housing market, the attractiveness of the high-end segment of Kenya's real estate market continues to take a beating as oversupply prevails. According to the latest report by property agency Knight Frank, both the residential and commercial segments of this market came under pressure owing to excess supply. Latest report, Knight Frank indicates that the prime residential prices declined by 4.5% in 2018 compared to a more modest decline of 0.9% in 2017. This reflects the twin effects of rising supply and constrained demand due to the low capping interest rates, which has tightened access to credit. On the flip side, however, rent in the top end of the market registered a decline of 1.3% in 2018 compared to a much larger decline of 2.8% in 2017. This slight reversal in declining rent has been attributed mainly to high demand from expatriates. On the commercial front, occupancy rates in new shopping centers ranged between 45% and 75% in the second half of 2018, compared to a range of between 60% and 75% in the first half of the year. This has been driven by the opening of new shopping centers, even as the consumer traffic into malls is reported to have risen over the same period. And that's it for the business news this evening. Have a delightful evening further.
Dear
Thank you for keeping it NTV Tonight. The first ever Mwalimu Nyerere annual secondary school debate to be held in Kenya is set to bring students from 8 countries in Africa together, and it will take place at the Juja Preparatory and Secondary School from the 9th of April this year.
The debate will be the 4th edition since it was started in Tanzania. The contestants are students from public and private schools drawn from Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Rwanda, Namibia, and South Africa.
The debate was started with the intention of bringing secondary school students and teachers together to expose them to the world school's debating style, promote the spirit of brotherhood and unity as represented by Mwalimu Julius Nyerere through fair competition.
Are emerging issues daily that need to be interrogated, that need to be debated, that need to be evaluated for a proper solution to be found. With this, corruption, radicalization, environmental issues, just to mention but a few, need to be engaged by informed and objective opinions and arguments. Debating and public speaking provides a platform where the parties delve on matters of concern through researched and well-articulated arguments.
To another first. The first Pan-African Conference on Social and Behavior Change will be happening in Kenya in the next 2 days.
The conference will be attended by over 500 delegates, mainly from Anglophone countries on the continent, and they will be sharing knowledge and ideas on how social behavior change can catalyze development by addressing problems affecting the continent. And these problems are gender-based violence, gender discrimination, infant mortality, HIV, malaria, and climate change.
Tomorrow, universal healthcare will be one of the main topics of discussion during the forum.
Africa Social Behavior Change Conference is all about discussing how we can integrate social behavior change in everything that we do. A lot of things that will be discussed in this conference will cut across working in many sectors. For example, how do we form public-private partnerships? How do we leverage on technology? Especially emerging innovative technology that's coming up to really be able to achieve what we want to achieve as a continent. And really when I talk about what we want to achieve is really development, because we do know that even as much as Africa has developed, we do need to start thinking about how to fast-track the development.
Waro Kiru is in studio ready to play. Sports is up next after the break.
Warotekiru. Welcome to NTV Sport. Each and every footballer in Kenya has a chance to showcase their talent and get a chance to turn out for Harambee Stars. This is according to head coach Sebastian Minye, who held his first training session of 2019 at the Kenya School of Monetary Studies, KSMS, in Nairobi. 20 local-based players took part in the session and were joined by foreign-based Masood Juma and David Cheche Ochieng. Kenya, which has already qualified for AFCON 2019, will tackle Ghana in their final group stage match next month. Kenya is also scheduled to play Burundi in a CHAN 2020 qualifier.
Other players from KPL, from NSL, maybe from the street, I'm not afraid about it. It's my willingness also to prepare this team and the youth player to give him some experience.
Nadhani watu 23 wataenda. Ukiwa home, ukiwa kwa team ya nationwide league, coaches husema mlango iko open. Mtu yote ako home na ana feel hii ni za kupia chance yake. Unapambana tuwezi jua.
Staying with the national teams, but now in rugby, and the Kenya Rugby Union and the Kenya Harlequins management will have to explain the poor state of facilities at the RFUA grounds. National teams preparing for international assignments have had it rough, with the pitch in a state of disrepair and toilet facilities not being kept clean. Sean Kadovilis reports on the tough times for the game at the, quote, home of rugby in Kenya.
The poor state of the pitch at the RFUEA grounds is in focus due to a broken pump that remains unrepaired and a prolonged dry spell hitting the country. Unlike in previous seasons, the pitch has almost been reduced to murram, with large patches featuring soil with grass barely spread on top. This has resulted in the national sevens rugby team having to adjust their preparations for the forthcoming Las Vegas and Vancouver legs of the World Series to prevent injuries occurring.
We wanted to do tackling because that was one of our weaknesses. But now, if you do tackling, then most of the guys are bruised. Now we are like playing on the road.
Pitch is substandard, but you see now we are institutional. We have to work with what we have.
The squad for the Tour of North America will be named on Wednesday morning, with head coach Paul Pau Murunga expected to name the young players who have done duty in the previous 4 legs. Shujaa will need to pull up their socks as they lie 13th overall with 12 points from 4 legs.
The team looks sharp. The morale is good. We are able to train the last now 2 weeks and just bringing in a few aspects of the game where we need to fix.
And Shujaa is in the tough Pool B for the Las Vegas Sevens that also features hosts USA, France and Argentina. So what you're looking at is the pitch at the RFUA grounds that the Kenya team has to train on. As you can see, the grass is not even attached, it's basically soil. And if they're not getting the tools to train on, how do you expect the Kenya Sevens team to perform at a consistently high standard? Sean Carter-Villas, NTV at the RFUA grounds.
Still on the national team beat, but now in athletics, as the national cross-country trials, which will double up as the national championships, will be held on Saturday at the Eldoret Sports Club. In our build-up to the big day, we turn our spotlight to the Kenya Defence Forces team that is seeking to reclaim their past glory at the cross-country.
The Kenya Defence Forces were once dominant in cross-country running. 5-time champions John Ngogi and Paul Tergat are among a galaxy of world-beating soldiers who shone in the past. However, KDF have never won the senior men's title since 2003.
We will be facing stiff competition from Kenya Police, but we are prepared. We want to reclaim back the victory of cross-country.
For the last couple of weeks, the KDF team has been camping at the Eldoret Showground, and NTV Sport caught up with the soldiers during their last-minute training at the Eldoret Sports Club.
Course ya trials iko sawa, si ati ni flat, si ni mteremuko, ni kaslop na ni mzuri sana.
This year's trials are unique in the sense that it will be held in the afternoon, a change the KDF team is ready for. Among those to fly the forces flag are world 5,000 meters champion Helen Obiri and Kibiwot Kandie.
Ngambo watu wanakimbianga afternoon na tumezoea Kenya peke yake ndo tunakimbia asubuhi, tunamaliza asubuhi. So ni mzuri pia tuonje majioni tujue vile inakuwa Kenya.
The Kenya Defence Forces team is promising to send many of its members to the World Cross Country Championships to be held in Denmark March this year. Gabriel Kudaka, NTV Sports.
Let's take to the Greens now, and Pan-African Financial Institution Absa Group Limited, which operates in Kenya as a Barclays Bank, has sponsored the Magical Kenya Open Golf Tournament set for March 14th to 17th at the current country club to the tune of 220 million shillings over the next 2 years. Barclays Kenya has been the sponsor of the Kenya Open for the last 8 years, 6 of those as the title sponsor.
This is undoubtedly the biggest sponsorship deal from a private sector corporate in the 51-year history of the Kenya Open, and we'd sincerely like to thank KOGL for according ABSA the opportunity to partner together in opening up Kenya and indeed Africa to the world through this tournament. The elevation of this tournament to the main European tour, we're looking forward to experience a significantly higher quality of play, especially given the significant increase in prize money from 500,000 euros to 1.1 million euros.
On to football, and immediate former Nzoia Sugar coach Nicholas Muyoti takes over as Kakamega Homeboys head coach, where he will be assisted by Peter Okidi. Since the sacking of Paul Nkata, veteran player, Alan Wanga has been the player coach with the team that currently lies 9th on the log. Muyoti's first assignment will be against Sofapaka on Saturday.
Namshukuru mwenzangu Alan ambaye pia ni mchezaji ambaye amekuwa anashikilia timu na ameshikilia vizuri sana, wamefanya kazi mzuri, na sasa kwetu changamoto ni kuendeleza hiyo kazi ambayo wamefanya, tuweze kushikana pamoja wachezaji, ofisi, ili tuweze kupata matokeo mema.
The transition is going to be smooth because I believe the players are going to give the new coaches cooperation that they need.
Ambayo tuko nayo ni kwamba tunatumaini kwamba kama atafanya kazi vile wametuambia, ametuahidi, timu yetu itamaliza kwa top 5.
And staying with football, and Kenyan Premier League resumes Wednesday afternoon with defending champions Gor Mahia taking on Western Stima at the Kenyatta Stadium in Machakos. Western Stima come into this match having been docked 3 points by the FKF Player Status Committee, who found them guilty of fielding Kevin Okoth, who is on loan from Tusker and thus not eligible to turn out against the Brewers. After the ruling, Tusker climbed from 6th to 4th, while Western Stima dropped to 7th. A win for Kogalo over Stima will see them overtake Bandari at the summit on goal difference with a game in hand. And Liverpool and Bayern Munich will be playing in the UEFA Champions League round of 16 match this evening. And Mark, are you going to be catching that match or?
Definitely, but we are going to ask our viewers to stand by for sidebar. The game is at 11 o'clock.
Yes,
so
they have a
wait, why did you direct that question to me?
Yeah, that's a bit...
Olive.
Sexist.
Really?
It's sexist.
Really? What team do you support? Well, let's go there.
Team Kenya.
In Kenya.
Thank you, Arode, for the sports, and thank you for watching NTV tonight. I'll let the lady start by finishing, of course.
Oh, yes. No, you were actually pitching sidebar.
Okay, yes. Sidebar is up next with Ken Mijungu. Kennedy Mijungu. He is standing by with the conversation on religion, to regulate it or not. There's a proposal about this. This is a very touchy issue, and that's why he has the gentleman Arnold Maliba, policy analyst, and of course he speaks his mind. Bishop David Mureithi, House of Grace, that is where he represents, and Steve Ogola, an advocate, and we have Reverend Goi Odera, my boy, I like to call him.
Definitely want to stay tuned for.
Yes.
Don't forget the handle is at NTV Kenya. The hashtag is a sidebar. Thank you for staying with us. My name is Olive Burrows.
And I'm Mark Masai.
Olive, you're looking very lovely. Let me just get a comeback right there.
Thank you.
Yes. Let's save it for after. We're out of time here. Thank you for watching NTV tonight. My name is Mark Masai. Good night.
And don't forget Davy Dagondo.
Davy, asante.